To getting more reactions. Bibek Debroy, member of the NITI Aayog, joins us. Mr. Debroy, appreciate you joining us. Big move coming in from the government. Shock and awe, so to speak. The implications for the economy for India.
Well, I think one ought to distinguish between two different kinds of issues. One is the stock of black money, and there's no question that a stock of black money exists. One can debate its quantum, but it is unquestionably true that a stock of black money exists. And the second one is a creation of new black money. Now, for the creation of new black money, there are various mechanisms that the government has already introduced. They will continue to be introduced. For the moment, we are talking about the stock. Now, a large part of this stock, whatever be its value, is in the form of high denomination notes, 500 rupee notes and 1,000 rupee notes. There is going to be a slight transaction costs in terms of converting these into new legal tender. And I should clarify that only old 500 and 1,000 rupee notes have ceased to be legal tender. There is a transition that's necessary, and adequate arrangements have been made for that transition. If the stock of black money is not really black in the sense that if it is legitimate, I don't think any citizen has any reason to fear. As I said, there will be minor transaction costs, but there is nothing else to fear. So I don't really think that much of the concern that is being expressed is warranted.
The concerns that most people have addressed are really about the short-term issues and perhaps some short-term disruptions, Mr. Debroy, but unequivocally everyone has said in the medium to long term this is a transformational move for India, perhaps one of the biggest reforms that any government has undertaken. But from an operational perspective, and we are still awaiting the operational guidelines from the government, from an operational perspective in terms of the fine print, what is it that you would like to see addressed so that there is minimum disruption?
Well, but before that, there is something else that sounds pedantic, but I nonetheless have to say that. There is a difference between a currency note being demonetized and it ceasing to be legal tender in some fashion. There is a technical difference between the two. What has happened is not demonetization of 500 and 1,000 rupee notes. Those would have rendered those as no longer legal tender. Today what has happened is old 500 and 1,000 rupee notes, to the best of my understanding, old has been defined as those issued before 2005, those have ceased to be legal tender. I think the biggest adjustment that will need to be done is in terms of the time that is taken for the ATM machines to be readjusted and recalibrated, and the amount of time it will take for new 500 and 1,000 rupee notes to be issued and the 2,000 rupee notes to be issued.
Right. So in terms of implications, Mr. Debroy, now, what it means for the real economy in the medium to long term, what should we expect?
I don't think, apart from the initial dislocation and declaration of the existing stock, mind you, because as I said, the creation is a slightly different issue, because the creation can continue to happen in terms of the 2,000 rupee notes, the new 2,000 rupee notes. So the creation has to be adjusted separately. Apart from the dislocation and the unearthing, within quotes, of stock of black money, I don't think there is going to be any terrible implication for the real economy, to the extent that certain sectors like the real estate sector survives on cash transactions. The deliberate intention of the government is to gradually persuade people to move away from cash transactions, and several initiatives have been undertaken along those lines. This per se is only one small bit in that entire plan or jigsaw.
You're right, sir. Appreciate you joining us here on CNBC TV 18, Mr. Debroy, with your first thoughts and reactions on the big decision that's come in from the government. But Our reporters are fanning out already outside ATMs, and let's just take a look at what the scene is like outside ATMs at this point, post the decision that's come in from the government. We'll take a quick break as we leave you with those images and come back to take you through more details.
सही है, सही कदम है ये। 500 रुपीज़ के 1000 रुपीज़ के जो नोट कर रहे हैं वो बिल्कुल सही है, क्योंकि उससे क्या होगा कि जितना भी 500 रुपये का नोट है वो जो नकली है वो डिपॉजिट नहीं कर पाएंगे जो है, तो वो बिल्कुल सही लगा मुझे। शॉकिंग तो नहीं है, बिल्कुल सही कदम है। अब कितना उठाएंगे एक साथ भी, जो या 3 या 4 बार उठा सकते हैं, ज़्यादा नहीं उठा सकते हैं वो एक बार में, तो ठीक है वो। पर ये प्रॉब्लम अगर ब्लैक मनी प्रॉब्लम सॉल्व करनी है तो ये थोड़ा प्रॉब्लम तो आएगा।
तो और 1000 का जो बंद कर रहा है ये बिल्कुल गलत है, क्योंकि जो गरीब आदमी के पास ऑलरेडी पैसा है वो क्या करेगा।
बस इतने टाइम में 100 का नोट बचा हुआ है, इससे तो मैं खाना खा लूंगा। बाकी 2 दिन बैंक बंद है और ये न्यूज़ जो है जंगल की आग की तरफ फैल गया है, कोई भी ये छुट्टा देने वाला नहीं है।